This is the YOB ConvoCast, one-on-one conversations with your other brother's authors, community members, supporters, and friends.
What's up, friends, and welcome back to the YOB ConvoCast, conversations with folks in our Your Other Brothers family. And it's so great to reconnect with this person because he hasn't been in front of a microphone, at least with me. I don't know if he's been in front of a microphone with anyone else, but he hasn't been in front of a microphone with me in the better part of a year now, almost a year. So we're going to catch up with him today. You must know him. Everyone who goes back far with this community knows him well. It's Aaron. What's up, Aaron?
Hello. I'm here from the folksy tundra once again.
That's right. You know, I have to clarify because we have a female Aaron now who's involved with the Your Other Sisters.
True.
So maybe when I said that, people were thinking, wait, Aaron, she was just here like a few weeks ago. But no, this is, and we have lots of male Aarons too. It's really getting confusing that there's a lot of Aarons in the room in our community. But male Aaron from the folksy tundra of Minnesota. That's right. Thank you for clarifying your identity.
Of course. Always a pleasure.
Aaron, it's been so long. What have you been up to? I'm so glad you agreed to come back.
Oh, anytime, Tom. Anytime. Especially ConvoCast. We hop on, we catch up a little bit, we just tickle the ears of our listeners and then move along. I love it.
It's very intimate. We're tickling.
Yeah,
ears,
that's right. That's right. Well, we are a folksy tundra. Yesterday it was 50 degrees. So I feel like as a Minnesotan, I'm always obligated to give a little weather update because that's most of what we talk about here. So we're loving it, but it's probably going to be a brown Christmas. That is a little depressing, although it's not common. So I'm good with it.
Really? That's so interesting because it's like already been much colder this winter here in North Carolina. And last winter we had one baby snow. It was very pathetic. It wasn't anything worth noting at all. And so there is a hunger this year for there to be more of a tundra feeling, more of a snowy, snowdrifty winter here in the mountains of North Carolina. So I'm really hopeful. I'm hopeful because of the cold that it's been so far that we've got some precipitation on the horizon. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think for us, the average is 50 inches of snow, and last year we got 90. So we were way above average. And so far this year, we've got like a half inch. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, I will gladly take your snow.
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, things have been good. Time flies by. Work has been good. It's been a time of transitions for me at work as well, just with a lot of companies we work with in the finance world have been getting bought or sold or changing how they do things. So we've all been pulling our hair out, just trying to grin and bear it, making it through the end of the year. So we're like counting down the rest of this month to get into the new year. We're just, we're burned out, but it's been good. It's been also a good year for anyone listening who might follow the market. As of recording a couple days ago, the market hit a new high. So that was a big, exciting thing for the end of the year.
Ooh, this is great. This is a great little spin-off topic because, I've always regarded you as Mr. Finance over here. So yeah, can you summarize what's going on in the world financially for somebody like me who has no idea in 10 seconds or less? No. I don't know.
That's the trick, isn't it?
Give us a forecast of the present and maybe your forecast for the future. What does the next year or two look like in the world or in the country?
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, last year would be described well as bumpy and perhaps hellish would be a good use of the word. It was all over the place because prices were skyrocketing and people kept thinking there was a recession looming. There was going to be people losing jobs left and right, not have any money. It turned out that didn't happen, but prices still have been high. So this year has been kind of slowly stabilizing prices. They're not going down, but they're not going up as quickly. So in the finance world, that's considered a big win. So I think it sounds like, based on what we know, the economy is still staying pretty strong, stronger than expected, and prices are stabilizing more quickly than expected. And so hopefully there are bright horizons ahead of us next year. We'll see. That doesn't mean there won't be some amount of unemployment and job loss and problems. But again, in the finance world, it's all relative. It went from people expecting it to be really bad to, it's probably going to be not so bad after all. So everybody's feeling pretty good. Thus the new market highs.
Plus 2024 here in America is a good old election year. You never know how that'll influence the market,
I
right?
know.
See how that goes.
Oh gosh,
Just
it's
to add
going to be something.
add some flavor to the year. Well, there you go. For all of our finance bros and all of our finance sisters out there, for that matter, listening, there you go. There's a little finance talk. Well, Aaron, I know as we've been on a YOBcast break for the better part of this year, we haven't talked in a long time in a recording. And I know simultaneous to that, you've been getting involved with another ministry and just getting involved more so with the goings on over there. So I thought this would be a great opportunity as we catch up with you, catching up also on kind of this, where you're investing a lot of your time these days, and just to be able to explore that and to talk about that more. So that's the impetus for this conversation. And I'm glad to catch up with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as nonprofits do, they slowly sink their claws in you and take more and more of your time from what you expect at the beginning, which in the case of this ministry has been a delight for sure. So I've been getting involved with Posture Shift Ministries with Bill Henson and his team. Probably about a year and a half ago, I started some conversations where they were looking to create an advisory council for their board. Basically, their board is mostly Boston located because when they started it, they were a Boston organization. So they didn't necessarily foresee the far reach that they would have, not just nationally, but then internationally. And as part of that, they've been trying to bring in more diverse voices, just people that can bring insight from different geographic locations, different demographics, obviously having LGBT voices on there. And then kind of also their board has had a great tenure. It's been there since it started in the early 2000s. And so they're kind of looking for a next gen board as well and using this as a recruiting tool. For people who aren't familiar with Posture Shift, they're an organization that works basically from a traditional view of marriage. They're side B in our lingo. But they go through they go into churches or parachurch ministries or Christian organizations, and they do training on how to be more inclusive. So that covers inclusivity in the sense of people like a lot of our listeners who are side B Christians, just trying to make their way through church, living celibate lives or in mixed orientation marriages. But it also covers how to be more inclusive for side A people or non-Christians. And it really takes a missional approach, looking at how do we treat LGBT people as a mission group like any other, and look at trying to find ways to create proximity and to be loving and have not a position shift. We're not trying to change the church's theology, but to have a posture shift and really look at how do we shift church posture, get past just the theological conversation and sort of go, okay, we've got the theology. Let's talk about now, how are we going to be loving and accepting while still holding to that traditional view of marriage? Yeah.
Wow, what a great posture shift representative you are. Because my follow-up question is going to be, hey, could you explain what posture shift is for those that don't know? But you were ready. You were ready to go. It's like, this isn't your first rodeo. You've told people about posture shift before.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because I had to learn what it was, too. Like a year and a half ago, I knew who Bill was in passing. I'm part of a Side B community, as many are on Facebook. So I kind of encountered him little bits here and there through that community. And then we just struck up some conversations. And that led from one thing to the next over several months of, hey, why don't you come help kind of put together this advisory council, which turned into some other opportunities. As I was going through building this, I was working hard to get Posture Shift to come to Minnesota, into Minneapolis specifically, come give the folksy tundra a visit. Because one thing many of us probably can relate to is that it's exhausting sitting down and having the individual conversations with all the church leaders, all the family, all the friends, all the people who they want to be supportive, but they have no idea. They don't even have the foundational language yet, so they need a lot of help. And so I was eager to get Posture Shift to come to do some of that work for me, if I'm honest. Like I invited my parents and some friends, and then of course my church and a lot of other local leaders came, and they do 2-day intensive conferences for pastors and ministry leaders. And they really spend day one going through the history of LGBT people, and treatment and trauma, and then the language, and just kind of start setting a framework for how to be more inclusive. And then day two is very much, looking at the practical nitty gritty. Okay, you've got 2 women who are married who come to your church out of the blue. They heard a nice sermon after like the Pulse shooting, and they found you to be an accepting, loving church. They want to play the piano. Can they be part of worship? Can they be part of volunteering? Can they be part of running a Sunday school? So it's a lot of the nitty gritty of looking at that. So I really appreciated having Posture Shift come do that training. The other big resource they have that I give out a lot is Guiding Families. Their 5th edition just came out. And that's a book that is good for pastors, but also really gets into the family dynamic as well. So it's great for parents who have had a kid who came out. It's great, honestly, for anybody. Honestly, I've benefited from reading it as an LGBT person because it goes through kind of the life cycles of an LGBT person. So initially the coming out to yourself, and then the coming out more publicly, and going through into adulthood, processing it all, figuring out family dynamics, even to like, what's it like being a senior LGBT person in our culture today? How do you kind of navigate that? So it's been cool to get that. And also it's helped me think about, from family and friend and parents and pastors' perspectives, what are the sorts of things they're confused about or don't know about, or what's sort of their perspective in the whole matter. So I feel like I'm really pitching Posture Shift hard here, but I just kind of am trying to give an overview of what it even is and why I really love being involved.
And if you want to sign up for Posture Shift today, use the code POSTURE.
Yeah, exactly.
I had no idea. So Guiding Families, you said 5th edition. Are they up to 5 now?
Yeah, that's the newest edition.
Because I think I have a few copies of the 2nd edition from, gosh, whenever that was, many years ago.
I know. And I'm not quite sure how all their editions are numbered. Like they had an expanded edition, which must have been numbered somewhere in there, but that's the edition like preceding this 5th edition.
It is cool though, because I think from what Bill told me, because I remember him sharing something about, I don't know if it was the 5th edition or the 4th edition or some future edition from the one that I had previously. But I remember him mentioning like wanting to include more trans stories, just because the trans conversation has been such a big part of the culture in the last 5 years, 10 years, especially. So just like being able to like adapt to this book, which maybe was more focused on the LGB part of the equation, and now like adding more trans stories. That was my understanding from him, as far as like what are we changing about all of these editions. But I think it is cool to see, like, as the culture continues to evolve and adapt and grow, and it's cool to see this amazing little resource kind of adapting and growing as well, and just bringing more education and more stories and more stats and more information to people who are just hungry for empathy and understanding. So yeah, I don't have the 5th edition. I need to like get current. I need to get a 5th edition.
You got to get it. And the nice thing about this one, it does definitely go more into the trans conversation a lot more, because that's become a much bigger conversation in our public and in our culture. But they also have tried to take out, like in the old ones, I loved this, but I also can see why it was a problem. Like they had a list of good language, bad language, those sorts of things. And they're kind of like, okay, we need this to last 5 years. And language changes so rapidly that we have to step away a little bit from this is the universal right and the universal wrong. It's more story centric. And that aligns great with YOB, of course, where it's a story driven community and website. And I think that's part of what appealed to me too, is it's not just trying to tug your heartstrings and like manipulate you with story. It's like giving you some real faces behind all of these high level theology conversations that get had in isolation in a room. And it's a lot of work to figure out how do you actually apply it in your family or in your church. And so Posture Shift challenges people to kind of take that step to do the work to figure out how are you going to actually make rubber meet the road on this sort of conversation.
Right.
So I buy big stacks of the Guiding Families book because you get bulk discounts. And whenever somebody asks me a question, I just give them a book. Like, here, just read this.
There you
If
go.
you read it and you have questions, all right, I'll do it. But I'm at the point where it's a lot to have that hour conversation with every person who asks.
Here, take a book. Yeah, I love that. I love that strategy. Yeah, for anyone who's just was drawn to YOB's content because you love the stories on our blog or the stories that we tell on these podcasts, like, that Guiding Families resource, it's listed on our webpage if you want to check it out. I think it's a cool resource to have if you're interested in more stories across the spectrum. And Bill Henson, I wanted to say this too, is like, we did a YOBcast with Bill way back in the day. It's been a few years now. And I'll be sure to link that in this episode. I think it was called Loving LGBT People. I think that was the name of the episode. Something along those lines. I always like think of things to say as the episode is airing, and I'm like, I probably should have checked that and noticed what is the title, but it'll be in the notes. If you just check the notes of the episode, or if you're watching this on YouTube or on the blog or wherever you're seeing this, you'll see a link to that episode. So you'll be able to listen to Bill. We talked to him extensively for about an hour about all of these amazing conferences, which I've been a part of, and now you've been a part of, Aaron. It's cool that we have that in common now. How fun would that be if you and me are part of a same posture shift event one year? That would be fun.
I so hope that happens. You know, it's amazing because like a lot of when they came to Minneapolis at all of their 2-day conferences, they have an LGBT panel. And we had like 4 yobbers or ex-yobbers from like...
Really?
Yeah, from Minneapolis who were on the panel. And it's just... And many people I've spoken with in YOB have been on panels at one time or another. So definitely good crossover. It's super fun, and Bill's great at moderating and doing all that too. So, you know,
I mentioned, just to bring a panel story back to the discussion, I mentioned this on... we did a ConvoCast series this summer on sexual identity, and on my episode where I talked about identifying somewhere on the asexual spectrum, the first time I ever verbalized that or vocalized that, like in a public setting, was at a Posture Shift event panel in Sacramento. I was on the panel with some people in Sacramento, California, and I just was like, I'm just going to go for it. You know, I'm still processing. I haven't arrived yet. I don't know what arrival is ever going to look like as far as understanding my sexuality inside and out. But I was like, I definitely am somewhere on that asexual spectrum. And I'm just going to mention that along with identifying as gay or queer or whatever language I used at the time. I don't remember. But I just remember saying that at that panel and like feeling a sense of, okay, I'm on. That didn't feel like a lie. That felt accurate. It felt good to like be truthful with other people in the room, and now I'm going to like be able to like lean more into that moving forward. And it's been great. That was like a great marker event in my life to be able to like say something that was true, that maybe I mentioned it in private conversations with people here and there, or mention it vaguely here and there, but then to like put a label on it or like put it out there for a bunch of, mostly, I think it was a Seventh-day Adventist bunch of people.
Sure, yeah, they do a lot in that church,
because that
community.
They catered. I had no idea that they were all vegetarian, so they catered like from some restaurant, and it was all salads and vegan, like vegetarian sandwiches and stuff. And I was like, "What is this? Why is there no meat?"
Yeah.
And apparently, that's a Seventh-day Adventist thing. If anyone didn't know that, so there you go.
Cool.
So yeah, I have fond memories from that Posture Shift event for so many reasons.
Right. And it is kind of that interesting sort of weird thing where a lot of the panelists like haven't come out to their parents or their friends, like maybe a couple of people know, true. And yet they're in front of this room of 200 people, or, you know, sometimes it's smaller than that. The Minneapolis one, there were 200, and just like pouring out their heart. But it's really awesome. I think a lot of people experience similar to what you said, like it gives them voice and actually helps them process and start coming out to other people too, but they do a good job with confidentiality. So
yeah,
it sort of feels like this private, intimate room, even though there's a whole bunch of people listening to you. Right.
That's so cool. And it's so cool that, you mentioned yobbers in Minneapolis, but I've heard of stories of yobbers from coast to coast here in America, of people getting involved on these Posture Shift events. Something that's so funny was my first one that I was invited to was back in 2017. And I was out in Colorado on some just other random trip. and they were doing a posture shift event in Denver the same time I was not in Denver, but I was like somewhere north of Denver, I think. And so someone from the team reached out to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to come down and we'll pay for your ticket or registration? Like we'd love to have you there." And I was like, "Sure," because I've heard about it, and I was like, "I'll check it out." And it's just so funny because that was the first time I met Bill in person, was at this event. And then by the end of the first day, he's like basically volunteering me to be on the panel.
I know.
So I came there
Bill.
thinking I'm just going to sit in the back row and just soak this in. And because I happen to be in town, so I'll just soak it in. And then meanwhile, he's like volunteering me to be on the panel the next day, which I was delighted to do. If Bill's listening to this, I was delighted to do that. But it was just so funny because he's very like, "Yeah, you've got a cool story. Want to share it in front of these 75 people, however many were there that day?" That was another fond posture shift memory. That was my first one. You never forget your first, you know?
That's right. Well, and I had a big first too with the Minneapolis events, because Bill ended up having to teach. He had, I think it was 3 conferences kind of back to back he was traveling for. And Minneapolis then it ended up filling up the first one we had scheduled. So they added a second 2-day conference. So it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was off. And then Thursday, Friday was a second conference in Minneapolis. And he had a cold. He had been fighting the week before, and he was like traveling and doing other conferences. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do these Minneapolis conferences alone, because I might lose my voice. So he asks me like 2 weeks before, in Bill fashion, like, "Hey, how do you feel about just co-teaching the events with me?" I'm like, I've been to one ever. And yes, I know posture shift, but I don't know your slides or like your content and this sort of stuff. He's like, "Oh, you're going to do amazing. It'll be fine." I'm like, "All right, sure. I'll regret saying no." And I can't leave him hanging. So I did it and I loved it. And thankfully, I mean, he knows how to answer the difficult questions that always get flung our way, and just the more complicated topics. So I kind of got to like share my experience, my story, my own little nuggets of thought that I've developed over the years, blogging and podcasting and doing stuff with YOB. So it worked out great. But hopefully I'll get to keep involved at least occasionally, doing some of those different events with them, and really enjoyed it. It was great event. And also exciting and a surprise is that we had a Yobber who was at that event from Scotland. He and his wife came from Scotland. Yeah, it was, we didn't know at first. Like, I knew he was coming from Scotland and just kind of met him because I was like, well, that's super cool. You're flying all the way to Minneapolis from Scotland. And it was this big story of how they've been trying to get YOB to come out to Scotland to do some work there in their churches.
Posture shift.
Bring
YOB. Although bringing YOB to Scotland, please bring me to Scotland. # bring Tom to Scotland. I would love that too.
Yeah, right. You can come fly your way out. You can be a panelist, I'm sure. Well, YOB is already in Scotland because this gentleman has been part of YOB for years, and but yeah, so they're trying to bring posture shift to Scotland, and they were going to come out to the States sometime to see an event and kind of work out the details. Well, they were planning to go to Israel, and Israel got attacked like the day before their flight. And so all of a sudden they're sitting there with all their time off and tickets in hand with a credit, and like, okay, what's your next event for posture shift? And they rerouted from going to Israel, like doing a Holy Land visit, to coming and seeing the event in Minneapolis. And we were chatting. They joined us for a dinner afterwards and found out, oh, he's from YOB. And he's talking about the different authors and podcasters he's been listening to over the years. And he mentions Aaron, and I'm like, that's me. I'm the Aaron on the website you're talking about. And he was like, we had this moment where we were like, oh my gosh, this person that he's been reading is sitting across the table from him. And I'm sitting there going like, this person that's been then from Scotland has been reading my blogs and everybody's blogs on YOB and listening to our podcast. And it was just really cool to have that sort of unexpected meet and find out that once again, our massive world is kind of a small little place in a lot of ways. So that was really special.
Yeah, you had texted me about that when it happened, and you sent a sweet picture to us, such a precious little picture too of you and them together at this conference.
Yeah,
So like
right.
how touching, how fun just to see. That's got to be a cool little rewarding moment for you to put yourself out there over the years with our blog and with our podcast, and then I mean, you've been able to interact with people for years now within our community, but to have
Yeah.
someone come all the way from Scotland to then by chance cross paths with you is pretty surreal, pretty cool.
It's amazing, and it's a testament to Yob's far-reaching influence. Yob has been in Scotland for years now, so Posture
Oh
Shift is
yeah.
finally catching up, getting over there.
Bring Posture Shift to Scotland. I'll gladly be on a panel at a Posture Shift in Scotland. I'll be there in a
I
heartbeat.
know.
So
I told Bill too. I'm like, hey, if you need a second person to go teach the one in Scotland, you just let me know. So
I only
yeah.
spent one day in Edinburgh when I studied abroad in college, and I
Mm.
wish, I mean, Edinburgh was magical, but I wish that's only like the tip of Scotland, like to go deeper
Yeah.
into the Highlands and to see other naturey things would have been great. So I know it's only a matter of time before my wandering self makes it over there again someday.
Of course.
And if that Yobber's listening right now, shout out to you. I wanna meet you too. That would be so fun. I would love that.
No kidding. Yeah. We'll have a Yob retreat out in Scotland sometime.
Yes. Well, Aaron, to close it out, you mentioned being on this advisory board. Is that the language you used? Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
advisory council. But
Advisory
yeah.
council, yes. I picture you and a bunch of people wearing hooded robes in a circle around a round table somewhere. That's what comes to mind, the image I have. So yeah, like what's that been like? Just being a part of like a structured thing involved with a nonprofit, involved with a ministry. What's that involvement been like this year?
It's been good. I mean, I've found many times in my life I get asked to do things that I feel wildly not qualified to do. But honestly, you just have to say yes sometimes to those things because, sometimes an organization or God is calling us to do things that maybe we're not like the most qualified out of anyone to do, but we might be the ones who are willing. So we just have to go forward and do it, and we get qualified over time. But honestly, it's been really great. We kind of have sat down over time and we were just thinking through who are the different people we wanted to invite. So this year has very much been the building year. Last year was sort of the planning year a little bit towards the end of the year. This year has been gradually adding people. We meet 3 times a year via Zoom. Most of us wear t-shirts. It's nothing too formal or crazy. um, and it's a chance for the staff to be a part of that, and board members can come as well. We have about 10 to 15 is sort of the target of the actual advisory council members. And then we have extra staff and board members who show up. But chance for Posh Shift to kind of just give updates, and then for us on the advisory council to just have feedback, give questions. And we try to have diverse skill sets. So it can be simple things like managing budget stuff or putting together benefits to doing theological research and stuff like that. So it's been a really cool experience. It's really encouraging to see people who, once again, may not be directly touched by the LGBT community. Like a couple of the members, they're straight and they don't even have like a family or like that kind of connection. Like I'm so used to the straight person on the board or whatever, like, oh, their son or daughter is gay or whatever. But it's just really encouraging to see people who have a passion for a minority community that, I don't know, you sort of feel like as a minority community, you're sort of like, you have no reason to like bear this burden with us, but here you are. And so that's been really cool. And it's fun to meet people. It's a small community in a lot of ways. You meet a lot of different people through YOB or Revoice. And Posture Shift has just been one more connection that I can use to like meet new people and just make connections that way. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. So cool to hear an update about what's going on over there in Posture Shift land. I always tell people, like, if there's one person to talk to about anything LGBT related and the church, like, go to Bill Henson. He's got all the stories, all the experience, all the empathy.
Absolutely.
I don't want to like make him out to be this godlike figure, but he is a great person that I look up to personally, and I know you do as well. So, yeah, shout out to Bill Henson and all of the work he's doing and all the good work you're doing with all the other people on advisory councils and the board people. And it's just a phenomenal event. I encourage anyone listening to check it out. Bring Posture Shift to your church or to your ministries, to your area, to your city. I know it's a great event that blesses a lot of people. It gives a lot of understanding and education, and just a fun event. Great like-minded people in the same room. Like I've been to 4 or 5 of them, I think, and it's just a great experience every single time.
It really is. It's like its own. Like I remember the YOB retreat. That's like one of the pinnacle LGBT experiences I've had, of just like getting to be in this place with 40 other LGBT guys and all like pursuing traditional view of marriage, that kind of thing. And Posture Shift has been another one of those events alongside like Revoice, where it's just such a unique feel. Each of them are their own unique, amazing thing where you feel seen and heard in their own unique way at each of those. So it's great.
You know, Aaron, it's been a few retreats for you. We're not in the 40s anymore. We're in the 50s now. We've got 50 plus people coming to these events.
Yeah,
so you gotta
it's been
adapt
2 years,
your numbers.
I think. Right.
Yeah. Adjust for inflation. Yeah. Going back to finance talk. Yeah, we're increasing. We missed you there. We've missed you.
2024 might be the year I can make it back. It's been a lot of travel, not just for Posture Shift, but for work too. So
yeah, you've gotten a lot on your plate, but man, I admire all the work you're doing. Keep up the good work, and I hope you come back behind this microphone again sometime soon. It's always a joy to catch up.
I will, Tom. Anytime you call, I'll be there.
Oh, sweet. Well, yeah, like I said, listeners, the link to that Bill Henson YOBcast will be there. I'll put a link to Posture Shift as well, for that matter. So that's clickable for anyone listening. Yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to catch up. Maybe, Aaron, you're inspiring me maybe to make the rounds with some former YOBcast voices of old. Maybe I'll be making some rounds soon with some other previously familiar people who have disappeared from the landscape. So I'm gonna try to bring them back maybe into the fold. That'll be maybe my mission going into 2024.
I for one, and I'm sure many of our listeners would love to get updates from some of those people, because they were a big part of our lives. So it's fun just to hear where they're at.
Yeah, they are. They're just, it's a changing season. I appreciate all the patience and all the flexibility. As far as the YOBcast break that we're on, we're doing ConvoCasts for now, but we'll see. 2024 is rolling around and got so many ideas and things. I've got a vision board, a literal vision board of things coming. So we'll see. We'll see what 2024 brings. But Aaron, thanks for taking the time, and we'll definitely talk soon. We'll have you back in no time.
Excellent. Well, always a pleasure, Tom, to talk. Thanks for letting me toot Posture Shift's horn a little bit, and we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. And friends, until we cast our next convo, bye everybody.
Bye. We just need the hourglass. The 30-minute hourglass that's called an hourglass, or do you just go till it's halfway
That's
through?
True. I've never thought about the fact that it is a half hourglass. It's not an hourglass.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, it is what it is.